What if you could become so strong that no criticism, rejection, or betrayal could ever hurt you again? Imagine a life where the words that once broke you, the silences that crushed you, and the losses that haunted you no longer have power. Sounds like a dream, right? But Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, believed it's not just possible, it's your path to true freedom. His wisdom, paired with Michel de Montaigne's call to embrace your whole self, reveals a life-changing truth. The pain you feel doesn't come from the world, it comes from within, from the wounds you haven't faced. Welcome to Jung Psyche Hub, where we dive deep into the psychology of transformation. In this video, we'll guide you through a journey to heal those hidden wounds, face your shadow, and build emotional invincibility. Through real stories like Sarah's battle with self-doubt and David's triumph over past trauma, you'll discover how to let go of the need to control others' opinions and embrace the strength that comes from knowing yourself. Have you ever felt shattered by someone's words, even when you hid it behind a smile? Stay with us, because this video will show you practical steps to become unshakable, to turn pain into power, and to live as your fearless whole self. Let's dive in and uncover the path to a life where nothing can hurt you again. Have you ever wondered why a single comment, a rejection, or a betrayal can cut so deep that it lingers for days, weeks, or even years? You tell yourself to brush it off, to be strong, but the pain festers, eating away at your confidence and peace. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, believed this pain doesn't come from the world around you. It comes from within, from hidden wounds buried in your unconscious. These wounds, part of what Carl Jung called the shadow, are the unresolved traumas, fears, and insecurities that make you vulnerable to external triggers. In this chapter, we'll uncover why these hidden wounds hurt you, how they control your reactions, and the first step to healing them so nothing can hurt you again. Let's start with Sarah, a 29-year-old graphic designer who seemed confident on the outside but crumbled inside. At work, a colleague's casual remark about her latest project, it's not quite there yet, sent her spiraling into self-doubt. She stayed up all night, reworking her designs, convinced she wasn't good enough. Sound familiar? Maybe you felt that sting from a friend's offhand comment, a boss's criticism, or even a stranger's judgment. For Sarah, that one remark wasn't just feedback, it reopened an old wound from her childhood, when her parents dismissed her creative dreams as impractical. She carried that pain into adulthood, hidden in her shadow, where it shaped how she saw herself and reacted to the world. Carl Jung taught that the shadow is the part of you that you push away, the fears, traumas, and desires you don't want to face. These hidden wounds aren't just memories, they're active forces in your unconscious, waiting for a trigger like a harsh word or a rejection to flare up. When they do, they amplify the pain, making you feel small, unworthy, or broken. Michel de Montaigne, a philosopher whose wisdom complements Carl Jung's, saw this too. He wrote that we suffer most when we resist our inner truths, clinging to an image of strength while ignoring the wounds beneath. For Sarah, her shadow held not just her fear of being not good enough, but also her unacknowledged anger at her parents' dismissal. Every criticism she faced echoed that old pain, making her feel powerless. Here's the uncomfortable truth. What hurts you isn't what others say or do, it's what their actions awaken inside you. Carl Jung explained that external events only have power if they find an echo in your unconscious. If you've ever overreacted to a small slight or felt crushed by a rejection, it's not just about that moment, it's about the story you've been telling yourself for years. Maybe it's, I'm not enough, I don't belong, or I have to be perfect to be loved. These stories, rooted in past traumas, live in your shadow and make you vulnerable. Montaigne would say, you're not weak for feeling this pain, you're human. But as long as you ignore these wounds, they control you, turning every critique into a dagger and every rejection into a wound that won't heal. Let's go back to Sarah. After her colleague's comment, she started reading about Carl Jung's shadow and realized her reaction wasn't just about work, it was about her unhealed childhood wound. She decided to take a small step. She wrote down every time she felt not good enough and traced it back to her parents' words. That simple act of naming her pain was like shining a light into her shadow. It didn't fix everything overnight, but it gave her clarity. She wasn't defined by one comment or her past. She started to see that her pain wasn't about her colleague. It was about a wound she could begin to heal. Why does this matter? Because recognizing your hidden wounds is the first step to becoming emotionally invincible. Carl Jung believed that what you don't see in your unconscious masters you. When you ignore your shadow, every external event feels like a threat. But when you start to face those wounds, you take back your power. Montaigne echoed this, saying that true freedom comes from accepting your imperfections, not hiding them. The pain you feel isn't your enemy, it's a messenger, pointing you toward the parts of yourself that need healing. Here's a practical way to start. Grab a notebook or just think about this. Recall a recent moment when someone's words or actions hurt you deeply. Maybe it was a friend's snub, a co-worker's critique, or a family member's silence. Write down what happened and how it made you feel: angry, unworthy, small. Now, ask yourself, does this pain remind me of something from my past? Maybe it's a childhood memory, a time you felt rejected, or a moment you were told you weren't enough. Don't judge the answer, just let it surface. This exercise is like a flashlight into your shadow, helping you see the hidden wounds that make you vulnerable. Sarah's journaling helped her see her pain clearly. What's your wound? If writing feels too heavy, try this instead. The next time you feel hurt by someone's words, pause and take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this about them, or is it about something deeper in me? This small moment of awareness can shift how you react, giving you space to choose clarity over pain. Carl Jung would say this is the beginning of shadow work, acknowledging the wounds that shape your reactions. Montaigne would agree, noting that self-awareness is the first step to freedom from suffering. Facing your hidden wounds isn't easy. It means admitting you're not as put together as you seem, and that can feel scary. But here's the truth. Those wounds don't make you weak, they make you human. And by facing them, you start to take away their power. You begin to see that the criticism, rejection, or betrayal that once broke you only hurts because it touches something unhealed inside. When you shine a light on those wounds, you start to become unshakable. As we move into the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into how to face your shadow and turn those wounds into strength. Stay with us, because this is where you begin to reclaim your power and build a life where nothing can hurt you again. You've uncovered the hidden wounds in your shadow that make you vulnerable to the world's criticism, rejections, and betrayals. But knowing those wounds exist isn't enough. How do you heal them? Carl Jung believed the answer lies in shadow work, the courageous act of facing the parts of yourself you've buried, your pain, your fears, even your shame. By bringing these shadows into the light, you can transform them from weaknesses into sources of strength. In this chapter, we'll explore how to face your shadow to heal, using a real story and practical steps to help you take back your power and move closer to emotional invincibility. Meet Mark, a 34-year-old software engineer who seemed calm and collected but carried a heavy burden. Years ago, a close friend betrayed him by spreading a rumor that cost him a job opportunity. The sting of that betrayal lingered, making Mark guarded and distrustful. Every time a co-worker questioned his work or a friend cancelled plans, he felt that old wound reopen: anger, shame, and a fear of being hurt again. Have you ever felt like one betrayal or rejection defines how you trust others? That's your shadow at work, holding on to pain you haven't faced. Carl Jung taught that shadow work is about confronting those buried emotions instead of running from them. The shadow isn't just your flaws, it's the unprocessed pain, like Mark's betrayal, that shapes how you react. When you ignore it, that pain festers, turning small slights into devastating blows. Michel de Montaigne, whose wisdom aligns with Carl Jung's, believed we suffer most when we hide our truths. He wrote that denying our pain is like imprisoning ourselves. True freedom comes from facing what we fear. For Mark, his shadow held not just his anger at his friend, but also his unspoken fear of being unworthy of trust. Every new interaction triggered that fear, making him feel vulnerable. The turning point for Mark came when he stumbled across Carl Jung's idea of shadow work. He realized his guardedness wasn't protecting him, It was keeping him trapped. Inspired, he tried a bold exercise. He wrote a letter to himself, addressing the betrayal as if he were speaking to his younger self. He poured out his anger, shame, and fear, then wrote words of forgiveness not for his friend, but for himself, for carrying that pain so long. That act of facing his shadow didn't erase the betrayal, but it loosened its grip. Mark started to trust again, not because people changed, but because he was healing. Here's why shadow work matters. Facing your shadow doesn't mean reliving pain for pain's sake, it means understanding it. Carl Jung believed that what you resist persists, but what you accept transforms. When you confront your shadow, you stop letting old wounds control your reactions. Montaigne would say, "This is the path to inner peace, acknowledging your pain instead of pretending it doesn't exist." The result? You become less reactive to criticism or rejection because you've already faced the parts of yourself that make those moments hurt. Let's make this practical. Try this exercise. Think of a moment when you felt deeply hurt, maybe a betrayal, a rejection, or a time you felt unworthy. Grab a notebook and write a letter to your younger self, the one who felt that pain. Describe what happened, how it made you feel, and what you wish you could say to that version of you. End the letter with words of forgiveness or compassion, like, "You didn't deserve that pain, and you're enough just as you are." This isn't about fixing the past, it's about giving your shadow a voice. Mark's letter helped him see his pain clearly. What will yours reveal? If writing feels too intense, try this instead. The next time you feel triggered by someone's words or actions, pause and ask, what old pain is this bringing up? Maybe a friend's cancellation reminds you of a time you felt abandoned, or a boss's critique echoes a fear of failure. Name the feeling: anger, shame, fear, and sit with it for a moment. This small act of awareness is shadow work in action, helping you see the wound behind your reaction. Carl Jung would call this a step toward integration, where you reclaim control over your emotions. Montaigne would agree, saying that naming your pain is the first step to freeing yourself from it. This process isn't easy. Facing your shadow means looking at parts of yourself you've avoided, maybe the shame of a failure, the anger of a betrayal, or the fear of not being enough. It can feel raw, even scary. But here's the payoff. Every time you face your shadow, you weaken its hold. You start to see that the pain you feel isn't about the present moment, it's about the past wounds you're carrying. By bringing them into the light, you begin to heal, and the world's criticism or rejections lose their power to shake you. Shadow work isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. Mark learned that by facing his betrayal, he could trust again, not because the world was safer, but because he was stronger. His story shows that healing your shadow doesn't erase pain, it transforms it into wisdom. As we move into the next chapter, we'll explore how letting go of the need to control others' actions builds on this healing, bringing you closer to emotional invincibility. Stay with us, because this is where you start to turn your wounds into strength. You've uncovered the hidden wounds in your shadow and taken the first steps to face them through shadow work. But there's a deeper trap that keeps you vulnerable: the illusion of control. How many times have you tried to manage how others see you, to predict their words, or to avoid their rejection, only to feel exhausted and still hurt? Carl Jung taught that trying to control the world around you is a losing battle. It's not the key to emotional invincibility. Instead, true strength comes from letting go of that need and focusing on what you can control: your inner world. In this chapter, we'll explore how releasing the need to control others' actions or opinions frees you from pain, using a real story and practical steps to help you build unshakable strength. Meet Lisa, a 40-year-old nurse who prided herself on being everyone's rocker: patients, her family, her friends. She spent years anticipating others' needs, saying yes to every favor, and avoiding conflict to keep everyone happy. But when a close friend took advantage of her kindness, ignoring her needs and dismissing her feelings, Lisa felt crushed. The betrayal stung not just because of her friend's actions, but because Lisa believed she could control how others treated her by being good enough. Have you ever exhausted yourself trying to please others, hoping it would shield you from hurt? That's the illusion of control. and it was keeping Lisa trapped. Carl Jung's concept of individuation, the process of becoming your whole self, teaches that true freedom comes from letting go of the need to manage external outcomes. When you try to control how others see you or act, you're not just fighting the world, you're fighting your own shadow. The part of you that fears rejection or failure. Lisa's shadow wasn't just her pain from betrayal, it was her unspoken need to be needed, rooted in a childhood where she felt valued only when she pleased others. Every time she said yes to avoid conflict, she was trying to control others' approval, but it left her drained and vulnerable. Michel de Montaigne, whose wisdom complements Carl Jung's, saw this struggle clearly. He wrote that we suffer most when we cling to illusions, like the belief that being perfect will protect us from pain. Lisa's breakthrough came during a therapy session when she learned about Carl Jung's ideas. She realized her need to control others' reactions was a defense against her fear of being unworthy. Inspired, she took a bold step. She started saying no to small requests that didn't align with her needs. The first time she told a friend, "I can't help with that right now. I need some time for myself." She felt guilty but also liberated. To her surprise, her friend respected her boundary, and their relationship grew stronger because it was based on honesty. By letting go of control, Lisa wasn't just protecting her energy, she was reclaiming her power. Here's why letting go of control is crucial. When you stop trying to manage others' opinions or actions, you free yourself from the cycle of pain. Carl Jung believed that individuation requires shifting your focus inward to your own values and truth, rather than outward, to others' approval. When you let go, you stop giving external events the power to hurt you. Montaigne echoed this, saying that true peace comes from living according to your own nature, not society's demands. The result? You become less reactive to criticism or betrayal because your strength comes from within, not from others' validation. Let's make this practical. Try this exercise. Think of one situation where you're trying to control how someone sees you. Maybe you're overworking to impress a boss, agreeing to favors to avoid conflict, or hiding your true feelings to keep the peace. Write down what you're afraid will happen if you let go. Will you be rejected, judged, or seen as selfish? Now, take one small step to release control. Say no to a request that doesn't serve you, like, "I'd love to help, but I'm prioritizing my own projects right now." Notice how it feels to honor your needs. Lisa's small no changed her relationships. What will yours change? If that feels daunting, try this instead. The next time you feel the urge to please someone to avoid their disapproval, pause and ask, "Am I doing this for them or for me?" This moment of reflection is a step toward individuation, helping you align with your truth instead of others' expectations. Carl Jung would say this is about integrating your shadow's need for approval with your desire for authenticity. Montaigne would agree, noting that saying no to others is often saying yes to yourself. Letting go of control can feel uncomfortable at first. It means risking disapproval or conflict, which can trigger your shadow's fears. But here's the magic. Every time you release the need to control others, you strengthen your inner core. You start to see that their actions or words don't define you, your response does. Lisa learned that setting boundaries didn't push people away. It built respect and freed her from the need to be perfect. Her story shows that letting go of control doesn't make you vulnerable, it makes you powerful. As we head into the next chapter, we'll explore how integrating your shadow and persona through individuation builds the emotional invincibility that nothing can shake. Stay with us, because this is where you start to become truly unbreakable. You've faced the hidden wounds in your shadow, begun the work of healing them, and let go of the illusion of control. Now, we're at the heart of the journey, becoming emotionally invincible. This isn't about building walls or pretending nothing affects you. It's about integrating every part of yourself, light and shadow, to create a core so strong that no criticism, rejection, or betrayal can shake you. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the path to becoming your whole, authentic self. In this chapter, we'll explore how to unite your shadow and persona to live fearlessly, using a real story and practical steps to help you become unbreakable. Let's meet David, a 45-year-old small business owner who carried a secret pain. As a teenager, He endured emotional abuse from a family member who belittled his every move, leaving him with a deep fear of failure. As an adult, David built a successful business, but every setback, a lost client, a negative review felt like a personal attack. He hid his fear behind a confident persona, overworking to prove he was enough. Sound familiar? Maybe you've pushed through pain, wearing a mask of strength while feeling fragile inside. That's where David waist-strapped between his shadow's fear and his persona's need to appear invincible. Carl Jung's individuation process is about bridging this gap. It's not about erasing your wounds or becoming perfect, it's about accepting and integrating your shadow, fears, traumas, with your persona, the face you show the world. For David, his shadow held the shame of his past abuse and the fear it would define him. His persona, the successful entrepreneur, hid that fear but left him reactive to criticism. Michel de Montaigne, whose philosophy aligns with Carl Jung's, wrote that true freedom comes from embracing your whole self, flaws and all. By denying his shadow, David wasn't protecting himself. He was giving his pain power to control him. David's transformation began when he attended a workshop on Carl Jung's ideas. He realized his fear of failure wasn't about his business, it was about the unhealed wounds in his shadow. Inspired, he took a bold step. He started sharing his vulnerabilities with a trusted mentor, admitting his fear of not being good enough. Instead of judgment, he found support, and that honesty gave him courage to pursue a passion project he'd avoided for years, fearing it might fail. By integrating his shadow's fear with his persona's ambition, David didn't just heal, he became unshakable. Criticism still came, but it no longer defined him. Here's why individuation matters. When you integrate your shadow and persona, you create a core of clarity that nothing can touch. Carl Jung believed that becoming whole means owning every part of yourself: your pain, your strengths, your fears, your dreams. When you do, external events lose their power to hurt you, because you're no longer reacting from a place of fear. Montaigne would agree, saying that living authentically, without hiding your flaws, is the ultimate freedom. The result? You don't just survive criticism or rejection, you thrive through it, because your strength comes from within. Let's make this practical. Try this exercise. Think of one goal or dream you've avoided because of a fear in your shadow, maybe. A fear of failure, judgment, or not being enough. Write down what that fear feels like and where it comes from, perhaps. A past rejection or a moment you felt unworthy. Now, take one small step toward that goal. If it's a creative project, spend 10 minutes sketching an idea. If it's a career move, research one opportunity. This step isn't about success, it's about honoring your shadow's fear while moving forward. David's passion project gave him strength. What's your step? If that feels too big, try this instead. The next time you face criticism or rejection, pause and ask, what part of my shadow is reacting right now? Maybe it's a fear of not being enough or a wound from a past betrayal. Name it. This is my fear of failure talking, and choose one small action that aligns with your authentic self, like speaking your truth or setting a boundary. This is individuation in action, balancing your shadow's vulnerability with your persona's strength. Carl Jung would call it a step toward wholeness. Montaigne would say, it's choosing yourself over others' expectations. Becoming emotionally invincible isn't easy. It means facing fears you've buried and risking vulnerability, which can feel terrifying. But here's the truth. Every time you integrate a piece of your shadow, you grow stronger. David found that sharing his fears didn't weaken him. It built trust and freed him to live authentically. His story shows that invincibility isn't about being untouchable, it's about being whole. When you embrace all of yourself, criticism or rejection may sting, but they can't break you because you know who you are. As we move into the final chapter, we'll explore how this wholeness creates a shield of clarity, making you truly unbreakable. Stay with us, because this is where you step into a life where nothing can hurt you again. You've journeyed through the hidden wounds in your shadow, faced them with courage, let go of the illusion of control, and embraced the power of individuation. Carl Jung and Michel de Montaigne have shown us a life-changing truth. Nothing and nobody can hurt you again when you become whole. By integrating your shadow, your pain, fears, and flaws with your persona, you build a core of clarity and strength that no criticism, rejection, or betrayal can touch. This isn't about avoiding pain, it's about transforming it into wisdom, turning wounds into power, and living as your fearless, authentic self. This is just the beginning of your path to emotional invincibility. Every time you face a fear, set a boundary, or honor your truth, you're stepping closer to a life where external events lose their power to shake you. The world may try to knock you down, but when you know who you are, nothing can break you. So, take that first step today. Name one wound you're ready to heal. Take one action toward your truth, and watch how your life transforms. We want to hear from you. What's one wound you're ready to face to become unbreakable? Share your story in the comments below. Your courage could inspire someone else. If this journey moved you, hit that like button, subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub, and ring the bell for more transformative insights. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because together, we're building a community of fearless, whole souls. Keep shining, keep growing, and live as the unbreakable you. See you in the next video.